So let's check out that how does the entire 3D structure work in Cinema 4D. The entire structure of the workflow works in a very typical manner. And when I say typical, it means that we are not going to use every feature of this software for a project, but we are certainly going to use some of the features. Now the very basic components of a 3D structure that must be present in every 3D software are model, texture, light, animate, render and composite. This makes them 6. And Cinema 4D puts up all these components in a very user-friendly manner, which is very easy to use. When I say easy to use, doesn't mean that it's easy to use this software. It means that when compared to other 3D softwares, this software is easier to use. Also, Cinema 4D provides a vast variety of free plugins that helps you to give better texture to your animations. So now instead of trying to explain you all these things, let me demonstrate a simple tutorial to tell you what exactly I'm saying. Let's start. Now assume that we have got a project to do and we have to make a really good 3D logo for a company, and the company's name is something like Luminious Tutorials, which is actually my channel's name. Let's put a text in the studio. Name the text Luminous Tutorials, because the company's name is also Luminous Tutorials. Now get this in the center. Give it a good thick font. I've already selected mine. You could select yours. I've taken Arial Black. Looks good. Now get extrude nerves in the object bar. Get text in the extrude nerves, making extrude the parent and the text as the child. Go to extrude object and increase the depth of the object, something like to 30. Now click flow and get floor in the object bar. Go to coordinates and change the size of the floor to 10 into 10 into 10 so that your entire project area is covered. However, you would notice that this area is not covered. You see this gray area. This is because this gray area is called the sky. To make this area covered, I would bend my project like this. Now see, everything's covered. Also notice one thing, that Cinema 4D has got two sides in the workplace. One is a darker side and one is a lighter side. The lighter side is the area where the video will be rendered. And one more thing, drag this Luminous Tutorials up so that the entire text can be seen. See in this manner. And decrease the size of the Luminous Tutorials to fit it within the render area. So we have completed the first component of 3D structure, that is modeling. I hope that you remember that I had told you that there are 6 components of any 3D structure, that are model, texture, light, animate, render and composite. Let's move on to the next phase of 3D structure, that is texturing. For that, we go to the material bar and double click on it. You will get a new material and by default its name is matte. You could rename this to text. Since we are going to edit our text now, we are going to use this material to give a texture to our text. Double click on this to open the material editor. Now change the color. I'm going to give it something like bluish kind of color to my text. Close this and drag and drop this material under extrude. Double click once again and you'll get one more material. Now change the material name to floor, since I'm going to use this to give a texture to my floor. Now double click on this. I'll give it a good color, something like grayish black. And I would go to reflection, check it and decrease the brightness to something like 40% and close it. Now I would get this under floor. Nothing seems to happen. You might not find any reflection. Let me give you a quick render view so that you can come to know what does this texture exactly do. You see, when we render view, we get a texture, we get a reflection underneath. We have completed the second stage of our 3D structure, that is texturing the model. Now let's move on to the next stage, that is lighting the model. This gives a feel to our logo that we are designing. So select light and get it into the object bar. Get two more lights like this. Rename the first light as light front. Second light as light side. No, back. Third one, rename it as side. Now go to the multiple view and select light front. Get it in front of the logo. Second, select light side. Get it to the other side of your logo. Third, select light back and get it behind the logo. Now get all these logos, select all these three logos, the rectangular selection, and get all of them at the center of Luminious Tutorials. And now get back to your main view, the perspective view. Now let me give you a quick render view of this. You see, this has given more feel and effects to the logo. So this is what lighting does exactly. So congratulations, you're done with your third phase. Now let's move on to the next phase, that is animating your logo. By the way, before we move to animation, I forgot to tell you one thing about lightning effects that I would like to tell you. You could also give this a shadow. How? You rectangular select all these lights, go to general, go to shadow, none, to shadow mask, that is soft. Now you close it and you give it a quick render view. You see, you put the shadow also now. Now we are going to move on to animation, since that is the next component of 3D structure. So animation could be both easy and tough depending upon the kind of animation we are doing. So since this is my first tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do a simple animation. Click on extrude, click on rotate objects, and make sure that the keyframe is at 0, and click on record active objects. Now get a keyframe to 45. You could simply do it by typing here 45. Get to 45 and click at make your RP, that is your rotational P axis, as -90. This will get it to -90 degrees. Now click on record active objects once again and get this green frame to 90 and convert this 90 to 0 once again to get it back to normal position, and click on record active objects. We are done animating it. So let me show you how does the animation look like. Kind of good only. For beginners, this is a really ideal animation since it's easy to do it. The next component of 3D structure is called rendering the animating view. So to render, we go to render settings, click on output, select the width, height, from which frame to which frame. I'll obviously select it from 0 to 90 since my animation is taking place from 0 to 90. And next I click on save, give it a destination, and I've named my file as render. And since I want my output to be in a movie format, I'm going to select AVI movie and close this to save the render settings. Now I click on render. Since rendering is going to take a lot of time, let me show you the simple final rendered file. Now as we can see, the rendering has completed. So let me show you the final output. I saved it in desktop in Luminious Tutorials. Here it is. And render.avi, double click. And wait for it to load. Here. The output seems to be pretty good. Let me show it to you once again. Yeah, it's good only. So now we have had a look at the 5 components of 3D structure. that is modeling, texturing, lighting, animating, and rendering. Although we haven't had a look at the sixth component, that is composite. Now composite is a component of 3D structure that is not important, so we won't have a look at this component right now. Once we are done learning 3D Cinema 4D, I'll give separate tutorials to teach you composite. Till then, take care, bye, and if this tutorial was informative, please do subscribe and like this video since it encourages me to upload more tutorials.